everybody, Ethan here from WordTech, back with another video for you guys, and this is another installment of my project update video, and a lot has changed, as you can probably tell by the fact that there is some different machine, seemingly different, sitting right in front of me instead of the Tower 900 that I normally have when I do these project update videos. So a lot has actually changed, and there's going to be some further changes in the future, and so this video I'm basically going to be talking to you about what I've done, what my plans are for the future, and towards the end I'm going to need your guys' help to help me decide what to do with my old Tower 900 case, because I am still going to be doing a rig in that, and I'm just not sure how exactly I want to go about doing that. So stay tuned until the end, and then there'll be a straw poll in the description that you guys can use to tell me what you think I should do. Now, as you can clearly see, my main rig has been transferred to a new case. This is a Fantex Enthoo Evolve TG, or the Tempered Glass Edition. Beautiful case, by the way. I really have loved building in this. I've always loved Fantex cases. I've built in almost all their cases other than the Elite for various clients and the like. I used to have a Primo myself, and now I have the Evolve TG here, and I love it. This is the ATX variant, obviously. And I'll have a review of this case coming for you guys pretty soon. That should be like a week or two out from the time you guys see this video, so probably next Monday. The build experience was great, but overall this is my new setup. And so the reason I've actually changed some things regarding my project and Project Monochrome as a whole is I started to come to the conclusion that I don't really want my primary workstation that I do so much work on to be in a system that is water cooled. I prefer either air cooled or all-in-one water cooling. I'll explain why I didn't do that in this rig, but all-in-one water cooling is fine too. I actually have my server running off of an Asetek unit, and I mean, you know, they last like 5, 6, 7 years even without any problems at all generally. But there's a reason I didn't do that in this machine, and the reason that I went with a massive air cooler. I'll have a build time lapse for you guys coming up here in a moment so you guys can see what the process was like. I did my best job there I could. Working with this case has been an absolute beauty though. I'm very excited to give you guys a review of it. This thing is awesome. Now, you'll notice in the build video, as well as some other footage that I'll have later, the cable management on the backside isn't that great. That is because I'm still doing custom cables for this machine. It's still going to be a looks-based machine, and it's going to still be black and white and potentially some green accenting inside of it. But since I'm doing custom cables, I didn't want to take a bunch of time to make the cables from this power supply currently look as nice as possible, because the way I have my rig configured in my setup, you can't even see that side anyway. So it's not a huge deal, but I do want to make it nice and cleaned up when I get the chance, when I get the new cables and all that I'll be custom making for this machine. You'll also notice some other color mismatched things like the Noctua fan that I have on my Noctua cooler here, which is the NHU14S TR4-SP3. It's just the version with the bigger cold plate that connects to the CPU, so it can cool a server or Threadripper based, Epic or Threadripper based CPU from AMD. They have such huge IHSs. You need something that has a bigger cold plate to properly cool it. This actually has lower temperatures than my Asetek unit that I was using, which was a Corsair H100i, just simply because it has a better cold plate that actually covers the entire IHS. So this thing is actually really awesome, and I'll probably be doing a dedicated review video of that for you guys as well. But don't worry, that ugly fan will be getting changed to a fan that matches the color scheme. I just haven't ordered them yet, but I will be ordering them soon. That's just one that I'm leaving on there for now, and I'll actually have a push-pull configuration on it and stuff like that, so just to get better temperatures. And all the fans inside this entire system will actually be getting swapped out with Noctua fans just for silence. That's extremely important to me. Anybody that follows the channel probably already knows that. Now, you may be wondering why I don't want to water cool my main machine, my main workstation, and you know, the reason for that, because a lot of professional water coolers and stuff would argue that there's not a lot of downside to it anymore, in a sense. Like, it's expensive and it takes work, and you know, there's some maintenance, but in terms of like leaking and stuff, it's not really that likely anymore. As long as you do proper leak testing beforehand, you'll catch that before it damages anything. Plus, most of the fluids are non-conductive, at least for a given time period. So as long as you're swapping out the fluid often enough, you usually won't even ruin components if you do get a leak, as long as you catch it fast enough. But the reasons for me were partially reliability, but also ease of upgradability and ease of troubleshooting. So this machine is a machine that I can't have down hardly ever. In fact, I really can't have it down for more than 12 hours at a time. That's already pushing it for me. It's rare that I don't actually need to do work on this in a 12-hour period. I'm doing all kinds of stuff on it, whether it's writing articles, doing videos for you guys, working for other various sources, doing research, and obviously it's also my main gaming rig and stuff like that, but that's not as important. You know, I can take a break from that if I have to. But in terms of this, I need it to be as reliable as possible, and I'm changing componentry really often on this machine, and just water cooling introduces another step to that, especially because I was going to go with hardline cooling, where, you know, I need to upgrade an SSD, or I want to upgrade a GPU, especially a GPU or CPU of sorts. You know, it involves taking a lot of stuff apart and the system being down for a longer period of time. And after dealing with doing things like custom cabling and stuff, you know, taking so long, I can't really risk having this down. Now, I am making my own cables for this machine, so this will not be down while I'm building the cables for this. So just to clarify that, in case you were like, well, you just said you're making custom cables for it. So that's the reason I want to go with air cooling or all-in-one cooling, which maybe if I decide I want to overclock further and stuff, I may get an all-in-one cooler for this at some point in the future. But the reason that I went with the Noctua NHU14S, I think I just remembered the model number right. Anyway, the reason I went with that was because the only proper Threadripper water coolers out there right now at the time of filming and at the time of ordering these parts was the Enermax units, which are not Asetek based units. They're more custom. They have the larger cold plate, and they do a very good job of keeping it cool. In fact, you can get a 240 or 360 millimeter radiator with it, and they do an excellent job. But when I was doing some more research on it, not just in terms of performance, but in terms of actual user reviews, I started running into some stuff that made me a little suspicious, both of Enermax and also of just the quality of the unit as a whole. And so, for example, some people were reporting pumps breaking and stuff like that, which again, I can't have that either, because I can't just, oh, well, I'll just order something new. I need to have something spare that I can maybe attach back onto this. And so also having this quality air cooler here, if I ever do go to a all-in-one liquid cooler on my workstation here, if that breaks down for some reason, I can swap this cooler back onto it and be back up and running within a matter of hours. But some other things too is things like the fin density seem to change on later model units from Enermax of that LickTech cooler that was for TR4 in specific. And that was confusing some people. People on Amazon were talking about it. It seemed to only be a problem with the 240 millimeter, but it was definitely really weird because Enermax hadn't updated their site with new pictures and stuff of the different fin density, which is not as good. It's not as good of a fin shape as well as not as good of a density. So the cooling performance is actually appears to be reduced. At least I haven't seen any actual performance statistics, but according to how radiators generally work, it doesn't seem like it's going to cool as well. As well as the fans on that are kind of loud, so I would have had to order nicer fans, whereas this comes with the quiet Noctua fan. And there was other various reasons why I didn't order that. If better Threadripper based full coverage water blocks that are mounted to an all-in-one liquid cooler come out, I may end up going that route in the future. I'm not sure yet. Overall, I'm actually really happy with this cooler though. I mean, my temperatures, even under heavy load, won't usually even go over 60 degrees Celsius. They're usually in like the 55 range, which isn't bad, and that's under a synthetic load. When I'm doing rendering and stuff, it's like 52, 53 degrees. So I mean, this cooler does an excellent job. I'm actually really impressed with it. So we'll see, you know, and like I said, reliability matters so much. Overclocking does introduce another aspect or point of failure potentially. And so that's, you know, another thing that I'm not sure how I want to do on my main machine, even though I love to overclock. And I've got some kind of extreme overclocking videos coming for you guys in the future on some older hardware that I have. That'll be really fun. So anyway, now I'll just show you guys the time lapse of the entire build process. It was pretty fun, and I made a few silly mistakes in terms of how cables reach to places, as well as my power supply SATA cables are very weird. You have to flip each one upside down to wire them up, which is a huge pain. Because that just shortens the length of the cable and makes these weird loops in the back. I don't like that. But anyway, I'll let you guys watch that footage and I'll be back after that. right, everybody, so I hope you enjoyed that time lapse there, and now here's for the question that I need you guys to help me answer. So I still have my Thermaltake Tower 900 case. I'm just gonna call it Tower 900 and not the Tower 900 from now on, because that name's terrible. But my Tower 900 case, I love the case. You know, in terms of quality and stuff, it's not the best, and that's fine. When I reviewed it, I gave it a pretty great rating because in terms of value, it is actually a very value-oriented case in terms of how much you get for your money, but little things like screws not being threaded right and stuff. And so I've actually had a better experience building in Phanteks cases and other higher quality brands out there. But again, I mean, if you're looking for a case with that style, I do enjoy that case, and I plan to keep it. I'm not super disappointed with it or anything. It's just that if you're not water cooling, it doesn't make sense to put a system in that case. That case is built for custom loops. It looks really dinky and weird without a custom loop. I always thought it looked weird. The plan was to do a custom loop, though. That's why I was okay with it for the time being. And selling something like that, especially on eBay, because I probably don't have anybody that I know in person that would be interested in purchasing it, is not a good idea. I don't have the original box because that takes up way too much space, and so shipping it somewhere would be basically impossible. So I'm going to have to keep it. And so I think I've decided I still want to do a custom loop. That's something that's been a dream of mine for a long time. I haven't fiddled around with custom loops very much in my time. I've done a lot of studying into it, and I'm fully confident if handed the parts I could just build one. But I've just never done it in terms of cost as well as in terms of associated risk and you know, more so reliability and ease of use, that I haven't done it on my main system yet. Well, now that I have that case, I'm thinking about putting in a custom water-cooled system in it, primarily for looks, and it'll be set up kind of as a guest computer down here. But I'm not entirely sure how I want to go about doing that, and I have some ideas. So the idea number one would be keeping that case, going with a custom water-cooled loop, but going with pretty low-end specs. I already have some of the parts that I would need, SSDs and hard drives and stuff, and it wouldn't be something very powerful. Basically, just like a quad-core AMD CPU, probably like I don't know, a Ryzen 3 1300 or something like that, and like 16 gigabytes of RAM, and just a pretty basic setup, right? And whatever the cheapest GPU I can find on the market right now that I can actually get a full coverage water block for, because that's part of the aesthetics. And just put all that in that system. Most of the money going into the water cooling. It'd be gaming capable. It'd be something guests could use when they're here and stuff, but it would mostly be for a showpiece and something that I've wanted to do for a long time and wouldn't cost that much money. I haven't done all of the exact spreadsheeting and stuff to find out exactly what the cost would be with all the water cooling gear, but I'd estimate around $1,000, which isn't bad for a fully custom water cooled rig. And I think it'd be a beautiful machine, and that'd be a fun way to do it. But of course, it's not particularly useful to me at that point. It could be used by guests and other stuff like that, but it wouldn't be a machine that I would use. And I already have a home theater PC that I'm also going to be using as a streaming PC, so it wouldn't be used for that either. It'd purely be a guest and or just showpiece PC. So that's option one. Then there's option two, and again, there'll be a straw poll in the description, so you guys should check that out. But option two is going to be just a totally insane gaming rig. And of course, you may be wondering, well, this is my gaming rig. Why would I have another one? What it would do is I would build an insane water-cooled gaming rig with a more gaming-specific monitor and other stuff like that, and it would be an Intel-based system. The idea would be the highest frame rates possible with really high refresh rate panels and stuff like that. And the whole idea behind this would be to kind of segment my workstation and gaming machines, so that way, if I sit down on this workstation over there, I do work. If I sit down on the gaming machine, I game, and I don't have the conflict between the two of, oh, well, I need to work, but I kind of want to play a game right now. So it might help with productivity a little bit, although I'm not particularly bad about that. At least I'm not anymore. I used to be very bad about procrastination, but it's not too much of a problem. But of course, I would get higher frame rates out of that machine, and it would actually be a machine that I would use. But the concern that I have with this, the downside to that, whereas the downside to the option one was that I might not use it very much, the downside to this is I'm not going to be using this machine very much. And one of my other dreams, so to speak, in terms of PC building has been to fit as much possible power as I can afford into a machine, and that's taking away from this, because I would just leave my RX 580 here. That would be the GPU for this machine, because I don't need something that is super gaming capable, and that's pretty gaming capable, right? It would take away from my usage time on this machine that most of my money is invested in, and it would cost a lot more to do that, even with this machine not being upgraded to a killer gaming rig and mostly just being left the way it is, right? Because I would also be buying a really high-end monitor, one that is not for editing, so I'd have to buy the editing monitor that I'd still want to have over there, which is a 38-inch ultra wide that I plan to get, but I'd also want like a 34-inch or a 49-inch high-end gaming monitor for the gaming rig in specific. And so it's going to increase cost by a huge amount. We're probably talking all in all about $2,000 more on top of if I were to do the previous one of just making this my gaming rig and doing the kind of just showpiece rig, so option 1. So it's going to cost at least double of what option 1 would cost. I'd estimate probably even a little more depending on how far I take it. And I would also need more storage because I would want to have all my games on that rig, so I would need to get more storage for it rather than just a little bit of storage to store some games that friends might want to play and stuff like that. Overwatch as an example on there. But of course, it would help with productivity a little bit, and I would get a better gaming experience when I am gaming because I would get higher frame rates. I would have a monitor that is more built for gaming, that's a higher refresh rate than 75 Hertz and has a better response time. And I would also have higher end GPUs in that, although the GPUs that I use will probably be the same between the two either way, actually, to be honest. But also, again, that takes away from how much time I'm spending on this machine where most of my money has been invested. I'm personally leaning towards option 1, but I just wanted to get people's thoughts here to kind of help me decide exactly what I want to do. So there would also be like a third option available that probably won't happen, but it's one that could happen, where I would just basically focus on this rig and not do a water-cooled rig at all, at least for the time being. I've wanted to do one for a long time, but of course, the cost justification for doing that, especially if it's just a guest machine, is pretty low. Even though option 2 would end up, being probably less cost effective in terms of usage between the two computers. Option 1 is also, it's like I'm not going to use it personally myself much. It would mostly be for a looks machine. And so option 3, like I said, would just be focusing on this rig and not doing a water cooling loop for now. That is a direction that I could consider approaching, but I'm just not really sure if that's the direction I personally want to go. But the option's out there, so I'm gonna leave that in the straw poll as well, in case you guys think just don't do it and just focus on overclocking, hardware reviews, case reviews, focus on building up this machine and doing some crazy stuff to this machine, and just not worry about the water cooling, because it primarily is a looks thing, especially if it's on a more guest rig. It's not necessary in terms of performance by any means. Now, thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your comments down below to let me know what you think. Of course, if you leave a comment regarding the rig, please do vote on the straw poll as well, unless you have something that is a completely different idea that you think I should do. I would love to hear your thoughts, so leave that in a comment as well. Don't forget to check out all the links we have down in the description down there. There's links to our website, links to our forums, links to our Patreon page in case you're interested in giving us a monthly contribution, as well as some other various stuff down there like other channels of ours and the like. Thank you everybody for watching, and have an excellent day.